Hi, George Macallister here with the Alpha Institute and author of Wholesaling is Not Rocket Science. So today is October 1st, last quarter. What are you doing? What's your plan? Do you have a strategy to end this year big? Do you need to? Do you want to? I suppose you do. Virtually every wholesaler I've ever met is competitive and we want to make it happen. But here we're at the end of the year now. It's October 1st. What are you going to do? So I'm here this morning with this video to give you some ideas on that. I used to always have some strategy on October 1st for my final quarter push. I wholesaled for 10 years and I was an advisor before that for another 10 years. And this time of the year was crunch time. In financial services, of course, a lot of business happens now anyway. Your advisors should be trying to figure out what they're going to do for year end. So what's your plan? So here's my agenda. Here's what I thought we would do. Let's talk about three things. That is, who it is that you're going to focus on for a year end push. What you're going to do. What is your story? What is your strategy exactly? And then how will you implement that? How will you pull it off? What are the details of pulling off a big year end push? All right, who are you going to count on for this year-end push? Well, here's what I think you should consider. You've got probably way too many people in your territory to begin with. You probably have hundreds of people, perhaps thousands of people in your territory. You can't give them all a lot of attention on a regular basis, let alone a focus for the end, right? So who really deserves it? This is what I would do. I would look at those people that have done business with you. There would be almost no one in this list, this year-end push list. There would be almost no one who has not done business yet, unless they are just ready to pop some business, right? But almost everyone else has done some business. And I would look at the entire list of producers for the year, and I would ask myself, who are the 50 people who can do this more and better than anyone else? Who can do the most business right now? 50 people. And once you get that 50 people, then I would get out the fine-tuning pencil and go through this again. And ask yourself, look at every single advisor on the list and ask yourself the question, who can do it now, who wants to do it now? Not only could they, but who do you believe will want to make a run right now for the end of the year? And they have the assets on the books, they have the capability, they could pull it off if they really wanted to, and you focused with them, they could pull it off, but they have to be able to get it done right now. Just because it's a big advisor doesn't mean they belong on this list. Maybe your biggest advisor doesn't belong on this year-end list. Maybe that's true. Maybe they're going to be spending two months in Italy on vacation. Or maybe they're focused on some other thing right now and they just can't do much for you until the first of the year, and you know that. So just because they're big advisors doesn't mean they necessarily belong on this list. The key is, can they do it now? Can they do it right now? Because you got to close this business in 90 days. It has to be on the books in 90 days, period. So I would get a focus list, not of 100 people or 250, but a focus list of about 25 people. Now, I'm not saying you're going to ignore everyone else, and I'm not going to say that you'll ignore your ordinary business. I'm just talking about trying to decide who it is that you believe should be responsible with your help to generate the most business right now. Who is that focus list? I'd get it down to 25 people. Start from there. All right, so we got 25 people. And now what? Well, of course, we want to get in front of them physically, literally, face-to-face, as soon as possible. So this may require some adjustments to your territory management, but if these are the people that are going to carry you to the end of a big, big year, you got to get in front of them as soon as you possibly can. I know you know that, but I'm just making the point. And then what are you going to do when you get there? The question is, what will you use to excite them and help them generate the business between now and year end? My suggestion is that you come up with a single story that is simple and powerful and should excite them. And preferably, it's a story that will not require prospecting, a story that will not require seminars. You don't have time for any of that. You don't have time. In 90 days, right? So you need a story that can be implemented immediately. So you walk out of the office, they turn around, they implement the story, and they get moving. So preferably, it's a story that uses assets that are already on the books. Maybe it's cash assets, or it's some bonds that are perhaps coming due, or some kind of securities that really should be moved out of the book anyway. Now, most portfolios of any significance need adjustments from time to time, so this is the portfolio adjustment time, right? So find some assets that you believe ought to be moved anyway, and then have a single, simple story. Single, simple story. Now, I will tell you that as a wholesaler, I always had plenty of stories. In fact, I had too many stories in the early years. I had a strategy in the first 3 or 4 years of wholesaling. I would go see people, and what I would do is I would give them 3 stories, 3 ideas every single time. Everybody got the 3 ideas. Well, I was the #1 wholesaler at a big insurance company. It worked pretty well. But I have to tell you, when I came to conclude that 3 ideas was too many, things got a lot better. Things got a lot better. Yeah, because 3 ideas is too much. It's too much. 1 idea, 1 powerful idea, and that's what you're going to bring. Now, if it turns out that that idea doesn't resonate, they don't like it, they can't use it for some reason, you have another, don't you? You have a fallback story. But what I'm suggesting is you don't present all 3. Use these 3 ideas, Mr. Advisor. Here's 3 great ideas to help you get to the end. No. A single idea that they can focus on, and a really simple idea. And preferably, it's an idea that is conceptual. You don't want anything that's complex, anything that involves other parties, so we got to get a trust going, things like no. We need something easy that they can implement even tomorrow. You see them today, they can pull off some business tomorrow. They can call someone up, present this very, very simple idea, and adjust some portfolios, move an asset from here to here. Something that can be done immediately and something that's simple. So that's what the question really is. How do you do this? How do you make it happen so that you get this surge? Now, you know who you're going to speak with. You know the idea. You've decided. I can't give you the idea because you got different products and services, but you know the most powerful idea you have right now. And by the way, even if you've told this advisor this idea before, it's okay. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. You can still come back in with the same idea, and I'll show you here in a couple of minutes how to bring that idea to their attention with the notion that it's going to help them have a big year end. So let's get going now on exactly how to make this happen. Okay, now making it happen. Here's my first and foremost, the most important suggestion here is this. Don't show it as an idea. Don't show it as an idea. Show it as a solution. They have a lot of ideas. When I started wholesaling in the early years, I used to think, if I just have the best idea, then they'll use my idea. Well, sometimes that's true. But they get a lot of ideas. The last wholesaler in gave them an idea. In fact, the last wholesaler gave them 5 ideas. And they already had 5 from last week. So if you come in and say, in so many words, that you have an idea for them now, it's no big deal. Everybody's got an idea. That's no big deal, the fact that you got an idea. Well, I have an idea to help you for a big year-end push. It's an idea, right? And actually, some of the good wholesalers will be doing that very same thing. There'll be other wholesalers that come in and say, look, let's make a run for the end of the year. I brought you an idea to help you do that. Many wholesalers would do that. We don't want to be many wholesalers. We want to be differentiated. We don't want to be confused with ordinary wholesalers. So don't bring your idea as an idea. Bring it as a solution. If you bring it as a solution, it's a whole different context. So what do I mean by that? Well, how can it be a solution? It's a solution to the problem that they have. They're not cognizant of the problem. Perhaps they're not thinking about it right now. You're going to take them there. But here's the problem. You have an advisor that wanted to make, I don't know, $500,000 this year, and it looks like they're going to end up at $400,000. Well, that's pretty good money by most standards, isn't it? That's pretty good living. But it's not 5. And that's the problem. The problem is it's not what they wanted it to be, right? So this idea comes as a solution to solve that problem. That's entirely different than simply being an idea. Bring your idea as a solution. And so how do you do that? Well, you have to ask questions. You have to ask the year-end push questions. So I'll give you some examples on how that would work. It's simple. You sit and talk to someone. Let's make the assumption, first of all, that you know this person, that you've done business with them in the past. They're friends of yours. Maybe they're one of your good clients. But here it is. You're going to visit them again, and you're thinking, I want to make this run. Here's what you ask. You ask them, well, here, let me just role play it with you. So, Bill, how you doing? Business has been pretty good. I appreciate what you've done this year. You've done a fair amount of business. I guess it's been good for you, has it? Yeah, it's been fine. It's been good, yeah. Hey, let me ask you this. Have you done what you had hoped to be able to do this year? Have you done what you were really hoping for? So they may say, well, not quite, but I've had a pretty good year. Or they may say, no, I've had a great year. So you're going to go in one direction or another depending upon what they say. But if they say, well, no, I've never quite pulled off what I wanted. I really wanted to do 500 grand, you know. Looks like I'll end up about 4. Looks like I'll end up about 4. So now you've found out what has to happen, right? And you literally ask them now. So let me ask you this, Bill. It looks like you're going to end up at 400 grand this year. That's a good living. What would have to happen for you to end up in such a way that you were absolutely thrilled? I mean, really, really thrilled. And you said to yourself, wow, man, what a year. What would have to happen? They may say, well, you know something, I mean, if I could pull off the 500, I'd do it. I want to do it. I want to be there. I want to get to that level. I want to go on that trip. I want to be that guy. I want to do that. But I don't know if I could pull that off because it looks like I'm going to come in right around 4. Yeah. So this is a conversation you want. By the way, you don't want it just now. You do want it now for this year-end idea, but you always want to be having this conversation. You always want to know what it will take to make them happy. Because you're the person with solutions, right? So this person says, you know, I would love to wrap up at 5. I'd love to wrap up at 5. So you're part way through the questioning. The other part of the question is you want to find out what it is that could keep them from getting there. So now you say, all right, so you want to end up at 500. Looks like you're going to get to 400. What do you suppose is the biggest issue between where you are now and actually ending up big? You know, between the 4 and the 5, what is it that can keep you from getting there? What are you dealing with that's hard right now? Now you're going to get any number of responses to this. Some of these responses will set you up perfectly. Sometimes they won't. But you want to know, what's the issue? And so they may say, well, look at, you may get something like, well, I don't have any clients, or I don't have any ideas, or people, I'm not closing as well as I should be. I'm not closing like I used to close. So you can get all kinds of different responses. But maybe someone will say, well, you know, I could get I could get to 5. I got about a dozen people that really should be doing something, and they're not. They're just kind of hanging out. They're not making decisions the way they used to. I think they're nervous about there's the elections and the economy and this business in Africa. They're just hesitant to do things now, you know? So I can't get them to pull the trigger. That's my problem, you know? All right, so now you know something as a wholesaler. You know what they would like to get done, and you know what the problem is. This is your job now to solve this. This is how you get your year-end push, by solving this problem. The best wholesalers will find some way to help that advisor, that experienced advisor, pull it off. And that's your job. So maybe that's one way it goes. Maybe it goes another way. Maybe the advisor says, well, you know, I've had a great year. This is my best year, actually. It's my best year. You can still ask this question. You can say, all right, so this is a great year. Hey, let me ask you this question. You know, we're approaching, this is the last quarter now. What has to happen for this year to be phenomenal? I mean, if you could really, really end up big, what would you have to pull off to do that? Well, it's going to be big anyways. It's going to be big anyways. But you know what? If I could pull in another $20 million, I mean, I got some stuff in the fire. You know, I'm working on some things. But if I could pull in another 20, man, this would be an incredible year. Okay. Pull in another 20. So let me ask you this. What is it that could keep you from doing that? And what's the hardest part about pulling in another 20 grand, 20 million? What's the hardest part? Well, the hardest part is you know, I don't have enough time. I'm overloaded, really. I barely get time for when I get going. Or the hardest part is I've been working with this particular idea, and it's hard to pull it off. It's cumbersome. They like it, and it's good business, but it takes time. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter what the obstacle is. It matters that you know what they want to do and what the obstacle is. And it may well be that you will now find a way to help them do what they want to do. That's the point. And that's how your idea comes to them. It doesn't come to them typically the way wholesalers would do it. You don't walk in and say, hey, Bill, I got an idea for you. Great. Idea? Oh, boy, I don't have too many of those. Got a whole stack of them over there from last week. And you know, I just got 4 more from the broker-dealer ideas. I got ideas, you know. But you want to bring your idea as a solution to a problem that exists between where they are now and what they want to get done. So that's point 1 on making it happen. All right, so we know when we're going to bring it out. We're going to bring it out when we can use it as a solution. Now let's talk about actually doing that. First and foremost, this has to be an idea that is known to work already. So I assume you do have some ideas that are working somewhere, and it's good to tell a story about someone else who is successful with this idea. Usually it's better received if they understand that it is being worked on elsewhere and it's actually working. So I'm not suggesting you make up stories. Right? You have success in your territory, but you talk about those successes. So you may have, for example, a particular advisor in another town that has been doing something for a while and it's really, really working. And that happens to be your idea that you're going to show this person now. So you want to tell this third-party story. It's best if you have a name, a place, a time, and some involvement yourself. So 4 elements that would make this story more credible, more believable: a name, a place, a time, and some involvement yourself. Here's an example of this. So look at, I understand what you're up against. I see what you want to get done here. You know, I have an advisor, Bill, Wilhelm. He's down in Lexington, and he started something about 4 months ago, 3 or 4 months ago, that's been very, very successful for him. In fact, we had done some business now the last 3 or 4 years, but all of a sudden there's this surge of business I wasn't expecting. He never did a lot, He never did a lot, but all of a sudden there's a surge of business. And so I went down to see him. I was going down to see him anyway, and I asked him, what's going on? His business, by the way, is a lot like yours. It's very similar. It's not exactly. He doesn't have quite as many 401ks. He doesn't really do that. But he's been, just like you, he's been 15 years in the business, approximately. And he's got a lot of retirees, people approaching retirement. It's a similar business. But I asked him, where'd the surge come from? What's happening here? Before you were doing actually what he did about $1 million a year for me, with me for the last 4 or 5 years. But this year he'll do about $4 million. I asked him where it came from. And here's what he told me. He told me that, and now it comes. Now out comes the idea. He told me this. He told me that. So attribute the idea to someone who was already using it successfully. And now you're really ready to tell the idea, right? Finally, after all of this, you're ready to give the idea that will happen, that'll make it happen for them so that they can have a big year-end push. Remember, the whole idea is this. If you want to have a big year-end, then these advisors have to have a big year-end, right? In order to that, you've got to have it narrowed down. You know who it is, and you go in and you see them, and you present it not as an idea, but as a solution. And now you're about to present it. You attribute it to someone who is using it successfully, and now finally, it's time to give the idea. No idea before it's time. No idea before it's time. So now you give the idea, whatever it is, and you've got an idea already. I'm not going to use an example because you're in all different industries and different companies and different. You have your ideas. But here's my suggestion to you on the idea itself. Number one, make sure it's really, really simple and repeatable. The very first day I ever traveled with a wholesaler, it was back in the early 90s. I had a company that I worked for that did limited partnership business. And I traveled with a wholesaler who was about to retire. He was in his early 50s. And he was about to retire. He made more money than he needed, literally. I mean, he made a fortune for a long time. And one of the things that he told me that always stuck with me, he said, George, you must give them, the advisors, you must give them the words to use. You must tell them what to say. And here's the reason. They could perhaps create a sales presentation. They could create some way to tell your story, but they probably won't. And they probably won't because they're already doing something. And the path of least resistance is just to do what they're already doing. They already have a story. It's the other guy's story, by the way. It's something else. It's not what you're doing. So for them to switch, to change, it's so much easier if you simply give them the words to say. If you tell them what to say and who to say it to, you got a fighting chance. So that is my suggestion to you, that you simplify your idea, you make it really, really easy, and you show it to your advisors in such a way that they can repeat it to their clients. It's not about teaching them the underlying technical information of the idea. It's not about teaching. Convincing them to be convincing. Showing them how to be convincing. Now I'm assuming they're doing the right business and it's compliant. And I'm also assuming that you will give them the information they need for this to be compliant. But first and foremost, if they can't present this in a way that it's simple and it's convincing, then it's not going to work. That's a lot of times what the problem is. We tell them what it is, how the machinery works. We make sure they understand all the little issues in the prospectus. And they really, really understand how these fees work under this circumstance and that circumstance, but we don't necessarily tell them and teach them and help them. Present this in a simple and clear way so that they can pull it off. So I'm suggesting that that's exactly what you do. Give them the words to say. This is what you say to your client. This is what you say to your client, all right? And then finally, let's assume they like this idea. Let's assume they like it. And they're excited about it. Then what you'll have to do is you have to help them find the people for it. And this is critically important. If you just give them the idea and they like it, but they haven't found a person yet, and you expect them to do that when you leave, you're going to lose most of that business. You get some. You'll get some. But isn't it better to help them come up with the people, literally come up with the names of the people that need it? So, for example, it could be that your idea is an idea that could use some cash on hand. That would be nice if it was, right? So have them pull it up on their computer. Let's take a look at your cash run, and we'll look at a few people, and we'll see where it may be appropriate. I'll help you decide if it's appropriate, and we'll decide who to show this to. So you want to bring that up. Let's see what you got on the books for cash. And out comes a list. Here it is 100 people in this cash. It ranges everywhere from 300 grand down to 10 grand. So let's start talking about the names of these people. How old is Bill? And he's married, right? Married. And so what is there? And off you go. You're going to try to find the people. Maybe it's not a list of cash. Maybe it's a list of bonds that are maturing in the next 60 days. What are they going to do with that money when they get it? Where are they going to put it? The interest rates aren't very exciting. Let's get a list of those bonds, and let's talk about some of those folks. Now, if you can't get this close to your advisor so that they will do this, my suggestion is that the relationship isn't as strong as it should be. You should be able to get your advisor to open their book and discuss their clients. If you can't, there's other issues that we have to work on, and we will in subsequent DVDs and videos and so forth. We'll work on that, building that relationship. But you shouldn't be adverse to doing this. You shouldn't be afraid to get your advisor to open their computer, open their book, and talk about their clients. Most relationships you have, they'll probably do that in a heartbeat. But if you get people that you can't ask that question, you can't talk to them about specifics of their book, first of all, they don't belong in your year-end push because you're not close enough to them. You don't have a good enough relationship with them yet to do that. So now you've gone over the list and you got some names. You've got some names. The question is now, what are you going to do with it? What I would do is critically important here, I believe, to get some sort of a commitment from this person. Remember, this is one of the 25 people that you're counting on for year end. Now, this person told you they wanted to do whatever, $5 million in business, and you're going to help them at least halfway. The question is, what do they believe that they can do here? Do you think you can do a million here with my help? I'll help you with every one of these people. Make sure it's clear and easy and repeatable and understandable. Do you believe if we worked on this together, we could pull off $1 million here? You ask a question. You've got to get a commitment. They may say, "Oh, you know what? We could probably do two. We could probably do two. If we really work on it." Or they may say, "Well, I don't know. We'll see what we can do." Well, you want to know, right? You don't know what kind of a commitment they have. If they say, "Well, I'll see. I'll give it a shot." Don't count on much. You may get some. You may. But what you really want is people who are enthused and excited, really, about taking this idea to their clients so that they can do the business, have a big year end. So you want to know, you may have someone in that 25 who you thought was going to be big. And when you get to the commitment part, they say to you, "Well, George, I don't know. I'm going to try to get to it. I'll try to get to it. I'm really, I'm really out straight here, but I know I can do some of this. I can do some." Well, Maybe they will. But do they belong in the 25? You'll still do the business, but I'm asking you the question. If that's the attitude they have, or if that's the reaction you get when it comes time for commitment, do they deserve your focus for this year-end push? Probably not. They deserve conversations, and they'll probably do some business. But if they're not committed to doing something significant and specific, they're not on my 25 list. All right? So, you've agreed now. You found the people. You've agreed who the people are. They've agreed they want to try and do $1 million between now and year end, or $2 million between now and year end. And now you're about to leave. So you've done almost all of the work. What's the last thing that you got to do? Well, the last thing you got to do is be specific about what the very next step is. Everything is a next step. Right? Nothing happens without some next step, right? What is the next step for them? And what is the next step for you? That is, who, you or them, who does something? What do they do, and when do they do it? If you don't leave with that, there's not enough specificity to move things forward. They may move forward on their own, but isn't it better if you say, okay, so here's what we'll do. I have these 3 clients. I'm going to take a look at their situation. I'm going to give you a call back on Tuesday, and we'll decide how much they could do or should do, and then you'll try and get them in here by when? By the end of next week, perhaps, or something like that. Yeah, I think I could get them in, especially Bill and Mary. They just live around the corner. They'll come in. So here's what I'll do. I'll work on this. I'll come back to you with an illustration for Bill and Mary, and I'll do that by tomorrow morning. All right? Then I'll give you a call. We'll make sure it's clear, and then you show it to Bill and Mary by the end of next week, and we'll get 1 done anyways. We'll start with 1, right? Yeah. How's that? Does that make sense? So whatever it is, you have a conversation with your advisor in which you both agree how it will proceed and who will do what and when they're going to do it. Yeah. So you're off and running now. You have a plan. You have a plan. You know who it is. You know who the people are that are going to get your attention. You know what single idea you're going to focus on. You know how you're going to present it. That is, you're not going to bring it simply as an idea, but rather a solution. You're going to make it really, really simple for them. You're going to give them the words literally to say. You're going to find the people for them, and you have decided, the 2 of you, exactly how you're going to proceed from here. I think you could have a big year end. I think it could. But it won't happen by itself. You need a plan. You need a plan. And they need a plan as well. And so this is my suggestion for you here. Give this a shot. And by the way, if you thought this was useful and you'd like more ideas of this nature about wholesaling and helping your advisors, check out my website if you haven't already, thealphainstitute.net, thealphainstitute.net, where you can get more information of this nature. I'd love to help you make some progress. Thanks for watching.